The production of waste in general and domestic waste in particular is one of the most characteristic features of development of our society in this century. The quality and composition of our waste are indicators of our habits as consumers and our concern for the environment. It is said that by analyzing the contents of a bag full of rubbish, we can find out about the living standards, way of life, and even the age and gender of the people who have helped to fill it up. Man has always produced waste, but the problems created due to the high levels of production and low levels of recycling have never been as serious as they are now. Large quantities of refuse, which will never be used again, have created large heaps. This has broken what is essential for the economy of ecosystem, that is, continuous cycling of the resources so that we can use and renew them again. With rapid increase in population, the municipal solid waste in our country has increased several fold in the last few years. The management of this waste is the responsibility of local municipal bodies.
Management of solid waste involves various steps. These are collection of waste, transportation of waste, disposal and treatment of solid waste. For the collection of solid waste, two systems are commonly used: house-to-house collection system, community bin system. House-to-house collection system. House-to-house collection is by far the best method of collecting refuse. This system is very popular in developed countries. In the system, house waste is dumped in special plastic bins from which the waste is collected by vehicles. The days of collection are pre-decided. For the success of the system, coordination between people and collection vehicles is essential. In the community bin system, first the waste is collected manually by sweepers in small hand carts or baskets and then dumped into nearby community bins. Household waste is also dumped in these bins by people. Once the community bins are filled, they are lifted and transported to landfill sites and emptied there. In most developing countries, including India, community bin system is followed for collection of household and roadside waste. In addition to households, waste from markets, schools, hospitals, parks, railway station and bus stand are also collected. The amount of organic matter in solid waste in India and other developing countries is much higher than in developed countries. This large organic fraction tends to decompose at a faster rate at ambient temperature. Therefore, it is necessary to collect and remove it as quickly as possible. Transportation. Various types of vehicles are used to transport the collected waste to processing and disposal site. In small towns and cities, carts are used for transportation, while in big cities, waste is transported by automated vehicles like trucks, tractor trolleys, etc. Dumper-placer vehicles can carry the large community bin or container which is mechanically lifted and loaded onto the vehicle. Various points need to be considered when deciding on the right system to be used for transporting municipal solid waste. The vehicle should have a low loading height, maximum up to 1.5 meters. Waste should be covered during transportation. The vehicle should be fuel efficient. It should have a rugged construction with anti-rust paint. The route should not be fragmented or overlapping. Routes with heavy traffic should be served before or after the rush hour. Routes should be mapped for more efficient and effective transportation. For many people, the way to dispose of waste is to simply drop it at some nearby place. Open, unregulated dumps are still the predominant method of waste disposal in most developing countries, including India. Huge heaps of open garbage is a common sight on the outskirts of our small and big cities, often visited by rag pickers, domesticated animals, birds, etc., creating environmental hazards and posing a threat to the health of thousands of residents. Most developed countries forbid open dumping, at least in metropolitan areas, but illegal dumping is still a problem. A few guidelines need to be followed while selecting a dumping site. The dumping site should be away from the city or town, but it should be easily approachable throughout the year. The disposal site should be on downward side of the town or city. Hydrogeological investigation of the disposal sites should be done periodically because rainwater percolating through the waste tends to carry large amounts of pollutants to the groundwater if the underlying strata is pervious or fissured.
Over the past 50 years, most developed countries have recognized the health and environmental hazards of open dumps and have turned to landfills, where solid waste disposal is regulated and controlled. In this method, waste is leveled in layers, compacted and covered with earth. Bacteriological, physical and chemical changes occur in buried waste. The temperature rises above 60 degrees centigrade within 7 days, kills all the pathogens and hastens the decomposition process, which normally needs 4 to 6 months. This method was first tried in England in 1916. Although it was hoped that most of the land-filled material would biodegrade, in reality, most of the land-filled material from the past 40 years in US is still present in the landfill sites, mainly because of lack of desirable conditions. Thus, the landfills are acting as chemical repositories, releasing pollutants in the form of dissolved salts, heavy metals and synthetic organic compounds in the groundwater and in the air as greenhouse gases such as nitrous oxide, methane and carbon dioxide.
A modern sanitary landfill is more advanced and is designed to meet exacting standards with respect to containments of all kinds. In developed countries, due to more cost and lack of a desirable space, landfills are less preferred. These countries nowadays either recycle and minimize their waste or export it to other less developed countries. Municipal solid waste is reduced or minimized either by recycling, incineration, or composting. These methods are widely used in densely populated areas where land is not available for landfills. For example, in Europe and Japan, 85% of municipal solid waste is minimized by these methods, while in the US, only 45% of municipal solid waste is minimized. In incineration, waste is hygienically reduced by burning. The heat derived during this process is converted into other forms of energy. By this method, 90% volume of waste is reduced, but it causes air pollution. Besides, incinerator ash contains concentrated toxic materials such as dioxin, furans, lead and cadmium, which make it highly hazardous. Most Indian waste is too wet with low calorific value of about 2000 kilocals per kg, which does not permit self-sustained burning in an incinerator. Only hospital waste, which is particularly hazardous, is best disposed by incineration. Incineration is widely practiced in Western countries since municipal solid waste in the West has a much higher calorific value and is dry too. There, the community incinerator functions reasonably well, and some of them even generate electricity. Recycling involves the collection of certain types of trash, separating them into their components, and using these components to make new products. Materials that can be recycled include aluminum cans, plastics, glass, paper, cardboard, metal, etc. The components of domestic waste commonly extracted for industrial use are paper for repulping, textiles for making paper and machinery wipers, etc., metals for remaking, glass for remelting, rubber for downgrade use, plastics for production of inferior grade plastic. It is necessary to separate these materials before recycling. Composting is one of the oldest methods of disposing solid waste known to man. By anaerobic degradation, biogas can also be generated. Waste with high organic compound is ideally suited for conversion into organic fertilizer rich in nitrogen, phosphate and potash by composting. In India, composting is the best method of disposal of municipal solid waste. Some of the most popular methods of composting are Bangalore method, Indore method, vermicomposting. Bangalore method. In this method, alternate layers of waste and night soil are laid out in pits and then allowed to decompose for 4 to 6 months. When the waste is completely degraded, the resulting compost can be taken out for use. Indore method. This method of composting in pits is similar to Bangalore method, except that here turning of waste is done at specific intervals of 4 to 7 days or 5 to 10 days. By turning, aerobic conditions are well maintained to ensure high temperature and uniform composting. By this method, composting is completed in a period of 13 to 27 days. Vermicomposting. In recent years, earthworms have been used for degrading organic household waste. The technique is known as vermicomposting. Through this method, high-quality, odorless manure can be produced. Nowadays, household vermicomposting kits are also available for use. Reducing waste by composting is not only economical, it is by far the less polluting and sustainable method too. Through this method, the local municipal bodies can get rid of major amount of solid waste on the one hand and can generate money by selling the compost on the other.
As citizens, we can create awareness among the people to produce low waste, about the hazards of sanitary landfills and incinerators, etc. We can also create a network of people who are interested in improving the living conditions and creating a hygienic environment. It is well understood now that in order to make our society free of waste, there is an urgent need to adopt the Gandhian principle of simple living. We must understand that the best and cheapest way to have less waste and less pollution created by us is to produce less waste and to reuse and recycle most of the material that we produce.